Now this summer, Congressman Walt Minnick came to Coeur d'Alene and had a town hall meeting. And at the town hall meeting, he was asked the question, did he think the proposed health care plan was constitutional? And he said something very close to this. He says, well, I think when the health care plan gets to the courts, I think the men in black robes would actually rule that it is constitutional. Well, I have a question for you. When you read the Constitution, do you see the words health care anywhere? No. Well, if the words aren't there, it's not an enumerated power, and we don't need a judge to tell us whether the health care plan is unconstitutional. So what do we need to do to get our country back on track? I'm going to mention 4 things. There's more than 4, but I'm just going to bring 4 to your attention. We need to get rid of the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve Bank, it's a private bank with private stockholders. They create money out of thin air, and when the money is created, it's loaned into existence. In other words, you probably think, and I always thought, that money is an asset, but in our system, all the money is debt. It almost stretches your brain to try to understand it. Let me give you an example. If you borrowed $240,000 to buy a house at 6% interest, the monthly payment on that would be $1,200 a month, or $40 a day. So the day after you borrow that money, which was created as a loan to give to you, that money didn't exist before that loan was approved. By the next day, you owe $40, but the $40 wasn't created to pay back the loan. And so what happens is the money supply expands as people borrow money, but there isn't the money there to pay the interest on the money that already exists. So we have these periodic contractions, and what the contractions turn into is consolidation periods so the bankers can get their hands on more of our property. And inflation, you need to know, is not increasing prices. Inflation is expansion of the money supply, and under the TARP plan and all these bailout plans, the money supply has been increased by trillions of dollars in the last year. We have already had hyperinflation, and it's a matter of time before that becomes reflected in prices. The second thing I think we need to do is we need to impose tariff on imported goods. We need to bring our jobs back to America. And I don't believe we'll have a recovery until we do that. The third thing I think we need to do is to get rid of the income tax. The income tax was designed to reduce the tariff, but it's getting hijacked and it's evolved into something it never intended to be, and so we need to flip that back over and replace the income tax with the tariff. And secondly, when Ronald Reagan put together the Grace Commission determined that not 1 cent of the income tax goes to fund government. The money from the income tax goes to pay the interest on the national debt, which goes to the bankers who are from overseas. The fourth thing that I believe we need to do can best be summed up by a quote from a letter from William Penn to Peter the Great, who was the Tsar of Russia. And he said, those who will not be governed by God will be ruled by tyrants. And it's time that we stop kicking God out of our public square. So what can you do about it? Well, I think the most efficient way to spend your political dollar, your political time, your political capital is to get the right people elected to office. Because when you have the right person in office, he'll do the right thing naturally, and you're not going to have to spend millions of dollars lobbying him to get him to change his mind. And so how can you do that? Well, first of all, you can give to campaigns. Unfortunately, they do cost money. Secondly, you can volunteer. You can put up signs, you can walk neighborhoods, you can make phone calls, you can do research on issues and try to bring those to the forefront. And you know, you can also run for office yourself. So think about that. You can join a group, and please check out the groups that are here and figure out what their agenda is and find out if you can plug in anywhere. And you can also support legislation. Representative Matt Shea and I are part of a group of legislators from 6 states. We call ourselves the Liberty Caucus. And we're going to be introducing legislation in all those 6 states that's similar among us. One of the bills we're going to introduce in Idaho is the Montana gun bill, which was introduced last year. This bill would allow guns, ammunition, gun accessories to be free from federal regulation as long as those products stayed within the state boundaries. It's going to be a fight. It's going to take a few years of fighting over this, but we're going to launch that bill and get into that fight. I'm going to bring back a bill I had last year that I got introduced too late and didn't get a hearing on, but it was House Bill 259, which would allow the state treasurer in Idaho to accept a silver medallion minted in Idaho for the payment of taxes. The bill also includes an incentive to bring someone into the state of Idaho that can process the silver ore. I wanted to write the bill so that we would use silver from Idaho, but what I realized or discovered when I did the research on this issue was the silver ore from Idaho to be processed goes to Belgium, Finland, Canada, Mexico, Korea, and China. And so my bill provides an incentive to bring a facility into Idaho to process that ore, and I'm told by the mining companies in the Silver Valley that it might create between 1,000 and 2,000 jobs in North Idaho. And if you're from Shoshone County, after we're done with the speaking event, please meet me at the table I'm at over here, and I'd like to talk to you more about this bill. And the last bill I'm going to mention, although there's probably another 10 I'm going to be working on, is a constitutional amendment which would restrict the state government from having any power unless that power is enumerated in the state constitution. And I found out the hard way that the way the courts interpret a state constitution, and this will be shocking to you as it was to me, that the state is all-powerful. They can do whatever they want unless the Constitution restricts them, and I think we need to change that. Well, in the 50s, the 60s, up through about the 90s, you really had about 3 choices. You could wear the blue shirt and be a Democrat, you could wear the red shirt and be a Republican, or you could do nothing and just enjoy life. Well, I don't think we have 3 choices today. If the health care bill passes, if cap and trade passes, we are going to be in a real herd of trouble. So I think our choices today are you can be a passive slave and let the government do what it wants with you, or you can be a slave who fights back and fights for your freedom. So the survival of our republic depends on us making that second choice, and I hope you'll make that second choice with me. Thanks for being here tonight.